I do agree with you. I got a funny story for you about BJ Dichter, not him specifically, but
I
remember.
It.
Yeah,
every story about BJ Dichter is funny to me. So go on.
It's not about him specifically, but related to him. So I was watching, of course, as everybody else was watching daily the video would feed in the conferences and the whatever and the photos and the whatever coming out of Ottawa during the convoy. And I remember BJ and I think Tamara was there. There was just kind of a panel of the spokespeople were being interviewed by the media.
Yep.
And this was the day where he just came out and started talking about Bitcoin all day. And I was like, this is
that was the day it ended. That was the day everyone left his side. But go on.
That seems so to left field. But he had this guy come on, his Bitcoin expert, come and talk, right? I don't know if you remember that guy.
Yeah, like Bullcoin or something. Yeah, I remember.
Well, this guy's name was Nick, and he was a nice enough guy. So in 2019, I flew out to Oregon, but I took it was a roundabout way for the cheap ticket. So it was like fly to LA from Toronto, and then from Toronto from LA go up to Oregon. Cool. So this guy sits beside me on my flight to LA, and I see him walking around in bare feet on the plane, and I'm a minimalist. I wear barefoot shoes. Like I'm into that shit. And so I was like, hey, so I started talking to him, and he owns this barefoot shoe store in Ottawa called the Foot Collective. And anyways, nice enough guy into the barefoot lifestyle. It was all about it. I bought my shoes from him for a while. And I'm looking at this crypto meeting and I'm like, holy shit, that's the fucking guy. So BJ Dichter's crypto guy, randomly, we're 3 years, I guess, before the convoy. We're sitting beside each other on the plane having a conversation about barefoot shoes.
Inserted into your life, bro. He's
right? Mr. Anderson.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So what's the verdict on him? You know him? What's his deal? All
I know, I knew him from the brief chat we had on the flight, which was and I do those. I don't like to talk to people who saw me on the planes, but because I'm an anti-social media.
Wait. He was on the plane, and there were empty seats where he could have chosen to remain.
No. We were sitting,
fellow barefooter.
No, we were sitting beside each other, and
two barefooters beside each other. That's not happening organically. That's right. The Matrix.
That's right. Yeah, no, he passed me one of the things from the flight attendant, like my meal or whatever, and so it was kind of obliged to have a little bit of friendly conversation. Yeah. And then I saw him get up and start walking around with his bare feet, looked at with the design on his shirt, which indicated he was into barefoot stuff, and I was like, oh, the only person that I know other than me that I can talk to this about. So this is great, like you said, right? It's very rare to have two beside each other.
Did he try and sell you on Bitcoin? Because they all become insufferable once they are.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, did you know it's going up? You should buy.
Yeah, that's right. No. This was pre-Bitcoin. It was all about fucking toes and bare feet. But then he went to LA. I went on to Oregon and never thought about him again until I saw him sitting in that meeting with BJ Dichter. I was like, oh my God, I've been buying my shoes from this guy. I've been buying in, not in Bitcoin, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah, no, there's Bitcoin something, dude. There was a time where I think some people thought I was going to become a big deal or something. Like for some reason, I was getting a little attention of like a potential big deal. Little did they know I would never become a big deal, and they wasted their energy. But the Bitcoin guys came out of the woodwork at me, bro. And that, like, I did a couple of videos in Ottawa where I'm like, hey, get your Bitcoin wallets. Like I'm taking shots on net, like they had a public net and some hockey. And it was the day after I'd had a debate with BJ because dude, I didn't want to talk to trucker leadership or BJ. I knew they were government operatives, but I didn't want to reveal it because everyone was so addicted to the notion that they were heroes. And I was like, who wants to climb that mountain? We're here to do a job. We're here to get mandates lifted. Who wants an emotional sideshow of me calling them out? I didn't want it. But I also wasn't going to Ottawa until I saw BJ Dichter say, oh, and Randy Hillier, stay the hell out of here with your politics. And then I saw like Fleury backing that up, Theo Fleury. I'm like, Theo, not you. Hey, too, Brutus. And so I'm like, this guy's a fucking saboteur, because if there's one thing I know, it's that Randy's the fucking real deal. And if you want to blacken your soul, then you would slander that man during COVID, because he's the only elected official we had Other than Sloan was on there too, but I have my doubts about Sloan being, you know, pure of heart as well. But he was at least good on that. On COVID, Sloan was good. But that's our only elected officials, and they're supporting the cause. And he created no more lockdowns before these guys were even friggin' a speck of ovum in their mother's womb ovary tube. And he just shit on him, and he shit on Max, and that's a Matrix glitch to me. And I loved Chris Sky, bro. And then he shits on Max, and he shits on Randy, and he leaves Derek Sloan alone. I'm like, Sloan alone. That's interesting.
I've never met Derek Sloan. I just know that Alberta, and in fairness, never having met him or spoken with him, and judging from the outside here, I just didn't like how he was running in one spot, lost, goes out to Alberta to start something new, and then goes back. Like, it's just, you're not really standing for anything. You're just.
I think he's an alien lizard boy suit, and I don't even believe in the Anunnaki or any of that. So I'm speaking just ironically here. But I think he's a, you know, soul for sale, and I'm not talking Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think he went on tour with Max and Randy. And sapped up all that cred of freedom guy cred. And I know I shouldn't invoke that, because then other people are going to say, well, that's what Max did. He took from Chris Sky. He took from, and I know that we can go down that path, but he's going around with them, and it would make perfect sense for him to join on to PPC and give us a huge boost, especially when his cred was really high. He was getting a hell of a lot of attention for like being the only MP to not vote with the Conservatives to agree to, you know, let Patty Hadjdu, the graphic designer who's in charge of Health Canada, suddenly decide when COVID's over. So the elections are suspended. That was their fucking motion, or the Bloc motion, Bloc Québécois, that they backed up. And Derek Sloan wouldn't vote for it. And so he was getting a lot of good press, and he should have used that to be like, I'm going with PPC. But these people have their egos played. There are BJ Dichters out there that keep the narrative on track by sowing deception and being Machiavellian behind the scenes. They'll put people into your life path that have some deep knowledge about Max Bernier that'll sour you on him. Do you know what the type of stuff I'm talking about? These people are like shit talking mean girls from Lindsay Lohanville, and they craft narratives. They get ahead of the game, and they try and talk shit. So that might have been happening to Sloan, but then Mark Friesen messages me one day that he's starting a rival populist party called True North. And True North is going to be made up of disgruntled PPCers who got mad at us for HQ not calling them back in time in 2019. We're talking about manic narcissists. We're talking about Frank Vaughn. We're talking about, I think it was one of the girls who went to work for Rebel Tamara. Everyone's named Tamara nowadays. Whatever happened to being Tammy, ladies? You were all Tammy 1 minute, and then we grow up and you want us to call you Tamara? Get a hold of yourself. I don't know. But let's talk about Tamara's. No, I don't.
Before we got into Tamara's, I do want to give a tip of the hat. During the CPC leadership race, I'm all out of leadership races. Leadership races all in the brain. I did photography for a provincial leadership race, during which I met all the candidates of the federal CPC leadership race, and right now the Alberta NDP, which on paper doesn't actually technically exist. It's just kind of basically a branch of or an arm of the federal NDP. They're undergoing their own leadership race. So leadership races all day. But anyways, it was Calgary Stampede 2022. I met Pierre. I met Jean Charest. I met Leslie Lewis. And I met Roman Baber. And I liked Roman. Very soft-spoken, and I don't line up with him on some things. But at least when it came to the magical snakebite mRNA experiment, he was against that. And I do remember one time he made a motion that all the MPs take a pay cut during the time, because all your constituents are under lockdowns, they can't work. Then you should be able to feel that too. And he got laughed at from everybody. And so I'll give him respect for that for sure.
Yep. I've met Roman at an event once where someone I met at the convoy, she wants to be like the hostess. She's very cool and she does it well. And she knows people. She's now heading up, what is it? It's something about children wellness, something to do with mRNA, protecting kids from experiments, that type of jazz. But she's lovely. And she was saying, "Hey, do you want to come over? Roman Baber's coming to the house, Baber, whatever the hell you pronounce his name." And there's, he wants to meet some of the, Mississauga shakers and movers and potential donors. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to tell him I'm a PPC supporter and that he should join PPC. She's like, okay, fine. Tell him that, fair play to her. She supports PPC. She's not buying bullshit. It's very tempting world. She could go live in CPC world and be, the guy from the Matrix eating steak going, you know what? Ignorance is bliss. I get a reward for that. She could easily live a very happy life dining with megastars, but she's choosing PPC, so I respect her for that. But Roman's going around the table being very diligent, writing down people, like each one was getting like a little bit of time to say what they wanted. And it gets to me and I'm like, hey bro, I just, I'm impressed with the stuff you do. I think that a great move would be symbolically for you to go on board with PPC if you're thinking federal and not go near the CPC party. I don't know if you're aware how awful they are and how disqualified they are. And I used all my time to just trash them and go, you should come with us because I like you, and so he gave his thing. He's like, well, it's just not the time. I think we can work. We have to work with what we have. Everyone's, making a pragmatic post hoc rationalization of something they want to achieve. Right. So I got his goals, but I'm just not impressed. I'm Shania Twain. That don't impress me much, that you're not getting on board with a true populist party. It's just waiting there. It's like a little test. It's an easy filter test to keep my life simple and go, okay, you're interested in the champagne class of corporate welfare and dining with Bombardier. We give them $500 million. The next day they cut half their staff. We wonder why we're subsidizing these companies when they just fire people the next day. It's all a racket. So if you want to take out the racket, you've got to get all new bodies in there who are only beholden to the people. So when people are like, do you know Max is making $100 grand? I'm like, good. I don't want him to be worried that he's not making enough, that he needs to sit down with Bombardier. I certainly want people to fund politicians, not, Lockheed Martin or, some Boeing. I want human beings to do it because it's utterly poison. Populism is just the renewal of a rotted system. All human institutions corrupt over time. Everyone should have a realistic expectation that democracy is the worst form of government except all others that have been tried. Churchill once again. It's like, yes, of course it's bad, guys. Of course nothing will ever be perfect. Your life will be a struggle. It'll be 30 years to undo the damage that's been done within our government. Even if PPC were to magically overnight win a majority, we would still be facing about 20 years of working with a rotted establishment edifice that is trying to sabotage everything we want to do rather than help us do our jobs as elected MPs. They'll be trying to sabotage us because if we succeed, then we'll find them guilty of stuff that they did before we got here. That's how a bureaucracy works. That's why bureaucracies are so dangerous and protect themselves. So it's going to be like, if people really cared, if MAGA really had their strategic game together, and I love them, they're the best people on earth. They're the only reason we have a chance is MAGA America. But you wouldn't be hyper analyzing Trump. Oh, could Trump be more Mr. Manhattan and get us out of this somehow? No. The general's already got his 9 out of 10 marks. Okay. We take away the 10 out of 10 because of his warp speed. He enjoys that project being successful too much, right? But he's done his job in the general category. What can we do in the means in the army category? Consider the army, the GOP. They're utterly rotted. You got to replace them all. That's one task. Then all the appointed positions need to be fired on day one, or they will sabotage whoever wins that is a MAGA Republican. So you need to be like doing war games of like testing out who's going to be the best press secretary, chief of staff. What do they do day to day? Let's do FOIA requests to see what the day-to-day life of a chief of staff for the press secretary does, so we can have all those positions ready to go. And you could be having public, forums and auditions, and there can be a Simon Cowell who's like, no, you will not be the, National Security Council liaison. There's thousands of positions that will be trying to sabotage you if you ever do win. So if we were really serious, we would be practicing for the moment where we actually have a chance to change things, because everyone that's there now can't change it, because that would reveal their own guilt in massive crimes.
You just alluded to that too, in the sense that it's that cult of personality. You have your Max, you have your Pierre, you have your Trudeau, who it doesn't really matter, because it's the tip of the iceberg, right? That bureaucracy. You said those thousands of jobs. The government is huge. Here we are arguing over the apple-eating Pierre. I don't want to say it out loud about Trudeau, but we know things about him.
Yeah.
And then all the other leaders, like we're just getting about, oh, Pierre's got his sick burns, no, Max will never, but it almost doesn't matter because the monstrosity. I had this conversation yesterday with my colleague. I said, you know, politicians are like the flesh on the Terminator's body. Like you see and you interface with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but that's not what you're dealing with. What you're dealing with is all the machinery underneath that you don't see. And you could take off the skin, you could change it to look entirely different, but that machine is still the same. I mean, it's still going to kill you.
Love it. That's perfect analogy. See, and it's going to become, you're going to mention it a lot, just like I do with the Matrix. And it fits, man. That's the world we live in. These people are not serving the interests of the people. We're at maximum rot. The 4 stages of a civilization is, I think, barbarism, civilization, decadence, collapse. So we're right between decadence and collapse. And if it is
fourth quarter for sure,
right? But this all had to happen. No one was going to change their mind on their own. Every person you talk to that doesn't understand the basic reality, that have that visceral reaction, like they're going to laugh or vomit if you say Trump's name. It's like, oh, it's too late. Collapse has to happen so you guys understand that the people that have fooled you into thinking they're the good guys because they read a nice, smoothly written script and act the way a president should act has really overridden all of your critical thinking to understand the content of what they're saying or the implications. They just see the platitudes of like, how are you against ending all poverty? You know, that's how deep they're thinking. A lot of people's critical thinking is as deep as a puddle, and we need to drill down. We need to make it at least an in-ground pool.